A blaring emergency broadcast cut through the static on Ethan Michael's old portable radio as he crouched in the shadow of a crumbling diner sign. The voice on the broadcast was shaky but firm, urging survivors to find shelter. If you're hearing this, stay hidden. The invaders are scanning for heat signatures and organized resistance. Repeat, stay hidden. Ethan adjusted his glasses, slick with sweat, and glanced at the horizon, where glowing alien crafts hovered ominously over the Nevada desert. He cursed under his breath. Silicon Valley felt like a distant memory now, a world away from this shattered landscape. What good was designing AI algorithms when everything, power grids, internet, society itself, was gone? The rumble of an engine broke his thoughts. A battered pickup truck barreled down the dirt road, its tires kicking up clouds of dust. Behind the wheel sat a broad-shouldered man with a steely gaze. His name, Jack J.D. Daniels, was scrawled on the military duffel bag strapped to the truck bed. A U.S. Navy SEAL patch stitched to his vest spoke volumes about his past. Ethan stepped into the road, waving his arms. J.D. slowed the truck, one hand hovering near the pistol holstered at his side. "You military?" J.D. barked. "Tech," Ethan replied, panting. "AI engineer. I think I can help." J.D. hesitated, then motioned for Ethan to get in. "If you slow me down, you're out." The two drove in tense silence, passing burnt-out cars and collapsed buildings. Ethan noticed the hunting rifle mounted on the dashboard, its barrel scorched. J.D. wasn't just surviving, he was fighting back. They pulled up to an old missile silo, its concrete doors slightly ajar. J.D. led the way inside, his movements sharp and deliberate. The air was stale, but the shelter was intact. A lone figure tinkered with a pile of salvaged machinery. Hank Hammer Turner, a grease-streaked mechanic in a cowboy hat, looked up and grinned. "Brought another one, huh?" Hank said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Hope he's tougher than he looks." Ethan ignored the jab and pointed to a damaged drone on the floor. "Where did you get that?" "Shot it out of the sky," Hank replied with pride. "Figured it might be useful." Ethan crouched beside the drone, his mind racing. Its sleek, alien design was both intimidating and fascinating. With a small toolkit from his pack, he began dismantling it. J.D. and Hank watched in silence as Ethan exposed its glowing core. "This isn't just a scout," Ethan muttered. "It's linked to a network. If I can access it, I might be able to map their movements or even find a weakness." J.D. crossed his arms. "You better. These things wiped out my entire unit. I'm not planning to sit here and wait for them to finish the job." The trio worked late into the night. Hank rigged a generator to power Ethan's equipment, while J.D. kept watch, scanning the horizon with a pair of night vision goggles. As the hours passed, a faint signal emerged from the drone's core, a pulsating frequency Ethan managed to decode. The data revealed the aliens' hive-like coordination. A central mothership controlled their forces. "They're vulnerable," Ethan announced, his voice rising with excitement. "If we disrupt their central system, it'll cause chaos. They won't know how to respond." Hank scratched his chin. "Disrupt it with what?" "Harsh language. We're running on duct tape. And luck here." Ethan leaned back, exhausted but determined. "We use what they don't understand. Humans improvise. They don't." J.D. nodded, his expression grim but resolute. "Then we improvise. Tomorrow, we hit their supply line and see if we can collect more intel." Before dawn, they set out in the truck, the drones tracking data guiding them toward a convoy of alien transports. They parked on a ridge overlooking the valley, where 6 massive, insect-like machines marched in formation. Their exoskeletons shimmered under the rising sun, each step shaking the ground. J.D. scoped the convoy through his rifle. "Their armor looks tough. We need to hit something vital." Hank pulled a bundle of explosives from his pack. "Give me 10 minutes, and I'll make their vital parts disappear." Under the cover of scrub brush, Hank crawled toward the convoy, planting charges along the trail. JD and Ethan provided cover, their hearts pounding with each passing second. The lead transport paused, its spindly legs probing the ground as if sensing a trap. Hank froze, his hand inches from the detonator. A shrill mechanical screech cut through the air as the transport scanned its surroundings. The group's luck seemed to run out when a smaller scout craft darted toward Hank's position. JD fired, his shot precise. The scout crashed into the dirt, drawing the attention of the transports. Ethan yelled, "Now Hank!" The explosion was deafening. Fire and shrapnel engulfed the lead transport, triggering a chain reaction as alien energy cores ruptured. The valley erupted into chaos, and the remaining transports stumbled, their movements erratic. JD hauled Hank to his feet, shouting over the roar, "Move!" Before reinforcements show up, they race back to the truck, narrowly avoiding the arrival of more alien craft. By the time they returned to the silo, their adrenaline was spent but their spirits high. The attack had been a small victory, but it proved one thing: the invaders weren't invincible. That night, as the group gathered around a dim lantern, JD addressed them with quiet conviction. "They've got the tech, but we've got the guts. They won't see us coming." Ethan held up a piece of alien circuitry he'd salvaged from the wreckage. "And the brains?" Hank smirked. "Don't forget the explosives." As the laughter subsided, the gravity of their situation returned. The Zographs were still out there, their fleet blotting out the stars. But for the first time, the survivors felt a glimmer of hope. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were fighting back. The silo hummed with activity. The once-abandoned space transformed into a makeshift command center. Ethan leaned over a salvaged laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard. The hacked alien drone sat nearby, its core pulsing faintly as it synchronized with the data streams Ethan had painstakingly decrypted. The room smelled of oil and sweat, a testament to the relentless work of the past week. JD paced in front of a map pinned to the concrete wall. The map, dotted with red excess and hastily drawn routes, marked the locations of Zograph activity. He stopped and tapped a spot near a ridge labeled Sector 14. "This is their refueling hub. If we hit it, we'll cripple their supply chain." Hank, sitting on an overturned crate, inspected a bundle of jury-rigged explosives. "And when they come for us after that, we're poking the nest, and they don't strike me as the forgiving type." "That's why we need the chaos bomb," Ethan said, not looking up. "We hit them with unpredictability. Their hive mind can't handle random input. It confuses them." Hank snorted. "You're saying memes and noise are going to beat these guys?" They turned New York into a crater. Ethan pushed his glasses up his nose. "It's not just noise. It's controlled chaos. Patterns that are deliberately unpredictable. Their tech thrives on precision. Disrupt that and they collapse." JD stopped pacing and faced them. "Controlled or not, it's still a gamble. But it's the best shot we've got." As the team prepped for the mission, the tension in the air was palpable. Hank loaded the truck with explosives, muttering to himself about alien overconfidence. JD sharpened his combat knife, his gaze distant but sharp. Ethan worked tirelessly to integrate the chaos bomb into their systems. A tangle of wires and alien circuitry spread across the workbench. By the time they reached the ridge, the sun was setting, casting an eerie orange glow over the desert. Through binoculars, they spotted the refueling hub, a cluster of towering spires surrounded by alien vehicles. The spires shimmered with an otherworldly energy, their hum audible even from a distance. JD crouched behind a rock, scanning the site. "Ethan, you're up. Find me a weak spot." Ethan connected to the drone's interface, his screen filling with alien schematics. He traced his finger along the lines of energy flow. "There," he whispered, pointing at the base of the largest spire. "That's the central power conduit. Take it out and the whole hub goes offline." "Perfect," JD said, signaling to Hank. "You're planting the charges." "I'll cover you." Hank grinned, patting the explosive strapped to his pack. "Let's give these bugs a real American fireworks show." As Hank crept toward the spire, JD took position with his rifle, scanning for movement. Ethan stayed back, monitoring the drone feed and relaying updates. The air was heavy with tension, every sound amplified in the stillness of the desert night. Hank reached the conduit and began setting the charges, his hands steady despite the high stakes. A faint whirring sound caught JD's attention. He turned to see a squad of Zograf scouts emerging from the shadows, their insect-like bodies glinting in the moonlight. "Contact," JD hissed into the radio, firing a shot that struck the lead scout. The others scattered, their movements eerily synchronized. Ethan's voice crackled in JD's earpiece. "They're reacting to the noise. Keep them distracted, or they'll spot Hank." JD fired again, drawing the scout's attention. One of the creatures leapt toward him, but he rolled to the side and stabbed upward, his knife piercing the alien's armor. It collapsed with a shriek, its glowing eyes dimming. Hank finished setting the charges and sprinted back, detonator in hand. "Charges are live," he yelled, sliding into cover beside JD. The scouts, sensing the threat, turned toward the spire, their movements frantic. "Do it," JD shouted. Hank pressed the detonator. The explosion was deafening, a burst of fire and light that lit up the night sky. The spire toppled, sending a shockwave through the hub. Alien vehicles sparked and sputtered, their energy sources disrupted. The remaining scouts convulsed, their hive mind unable to process the sudden chaos. The team didn't wait to celebrate. They piled into the truck and sped away, the roar of the explosion still echoing in their ears. Behind them, the hub burned, a beacon of resistance in a world that had forgotten hope. Back at the silo, the mood was triumphant but wary. Hank slapped JD on the back. "That's how you poke a nest. Not bad for a day's work." Ethan, however, was focused on his laptop. The hub wasn't just a refueling station, he said, his voice tight. It was also a relay point for their communications. Disrupting it triggered a response. "They're reorganizing," JD frowned. "Meaning?" "They're coming for us," Ethan said. "And they're not holding back." Silence fell over the group as the weight of the situation sank in. Hank broke it with a laugh. "Good. Let 'em come. We'll give 'em something to remember." JD nodded, his resolve hardening. "We've got their attention. Now, we finished what we started." The team's focus turned to the Chaos Bomb. With the success of their mission, they knew it was their best chance to turn the tide. Ethan worked through the night, refining the device's algorithms while JD and Hank fortified the silo. Every step brought them closer to a final confrontation, the stakes higher than ever. As dawn broke, Ethan finally looked up from his work. "It's ready," he said, his voice filled with equal parts exhaustion and determination. "Let's see how they handle Earth's last laugh." The air inside the missile silo was thick with tension as Ethan ran final checks on the Chaos Bomb. The device, a tangled mass of wires and alien circuitry, hummed faintly, its energy core glowing an unnatural blue. He adjusted the controls, ensuring the randomized signals were calibrated to maximum disruption. JD watched silently, his expression a mix of determination and exhaustion. "We'll have one shot," Ethan said, not looking up. "The signal has to reach the mothership's core. If it doesn't, we're done." "Then we make it reach," JD replied, his tone brooking no argument. "What's the plan?" Ethan pulled up a map of the Zograf mothership on his screen, the image stitched together from fragments of drone data. The ship loomed like a massive black widow in orbit, its spindly arms bristling with weapons. "We'll need to get the Chaos Bomb on board. Their shields are adaptive, so we can't just fire it at them from here. It has to be deployed from inside." "That's suicide," Hank said, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. His usual bravado was absent, replaced by a grim seriousness. "We'd have to get past their fleet, land on that thing, and plant the bomb. Even if we manage that, how do we get out?" "We don't," Ethan admitted quietly. "At least, not all of us." Silence fell, broken only by the hum of the Chaos Bomb. JD straightened, his jaw tightening. We knew what we signed up for. Let's focus on what matters. Taking them down? Hank sighed, running a hand through his hair. All right, Navy boy. But if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. I'll rig the truck's engine to overload and give us a hell of a distraction. It'll buy you time to get inside. Good, JD said, clapping Hank on the shoulder. Let's get to work. The team moved quickly. Ethan loaded the Chaos bomb into a modified alien transport they had salvaged, its sleek frame now patched with human ingenuity and crude repairs. Hank rigged the truck with explosives, wiring it to detonate on a timer. JD prepped their weapons, knowing they were vastly outgunned but refusing to back down. As they approached the Zograf mothership, the sky filled with the flickering lights of alien drones patrolling the perimeter. The team drove in silence, the truck's engine rumbling like distant thunder. Ethan sat in the back, double-checking the bomb settings. Hank was at the wheel, his grip tight but steady. JD rode shotgun, scanning the horizon with narrowed eyes. When the mothership came into view, its sheer size was staggering. It dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, its surface alive with shifting patterns of energy. Hank let out a low whistle. That's a whole lot of ugly. Focus, JD snapped. We're almost there. They reached the perimeter, and the truck roared forward, drawing the attention of the alien drones. A dozen of them broke formation, converging on the vehicle. Hank grinned and slammed on the gas. Showtime. The truck barreled into the heart of the enemy formation, its engine screaming. At the last moment, Hank bailed, rolling to safety as the vehicle exploded in a blinding flash. The shockwave sent drones spiraling out of control, clearing a path for the transport. JD and Ethan took the opportunity, piloting the alien craft through the chaos. The mothership loomed closer, its docking bay glowing with an eerie green light. Alarms blared as they breached the ship's defenses, the transport shuddering under the strain. Hold on, JD shouted, gripping the controls. The transport skidded to a halt inside the docking bay, sparks flying. They had made it, but not unnoticed. Alien guards swarmed the area, their insectoid bodies glinting in the dim light. JD grabbed his rifle and turned to Ethan. You get to the core and deploy the bomb. I'll hold them off. Ethan hesitated, his hands trembling. JD, you... Go! JD barked, cutting him off. This isn't a debate. Ethan nodded, swallowing his fear, and sprinted toward the core. The ship's interior was a maze of twisting corridors and pulsating walls. He relied on the hack drone's map to guide him, each step feeling like an eternity. Meanwhile, JD took cover behind the transport, firing in controlled bursts. The Zografs advanced relentlessly, their movements precise and coordinated. JD gritted his teeth, knowing he was outnumbered but determined to buy Ethan enough time. Ethan reached the core chamber, its center dominated by a massive, glowing sphere that pulsed in sync with the ship's movements. He set the Chaos bomb on the floor and activated it, the device emitting a high-pitched whine as it powered up. Back at the docking bay, JD's ammunition was running low. He glanced toward the corridor, hoping to see Ethan emerge, but there was no sign of him. The Zografs closed in, their weapons primed. JD drew his knife, ready for a last stand. Ethan finished programming the bomb and sprinted back toward the docking bay, his lungs burning. The ship shuddered as the Chaos bomb signal began to disrupt its systems. Lights flickered and alien machinery sputtered. The hive mind was faltering. Ethan reached the docking bay just as JD was overwhelmed. He grabbed the injured soldier and dragged him toward the transport. Come on, we're not done yet. JD coughed, blood staining his lips. Did you deploy it? It's done, Ethan said, hoisting him into the transport. Now, let's get out of here. The transport roared to life, lurching out of the docking bay as the Chaos bomb reached full power. The mothership convulsed, its structure cracking and collapsing under the strain. Alien ships spiraled out of control, their pilots disconnected from the hive mind. As they broke through the atmosphere, the mothership exploded in a blinding flash, sending shockwaves across the desert below. Ethan looked back, his chest heaving with relief. Humanity had won, not through strength but through ingenuity and sheer determination. J.D. slumped in his seat, a faint smile on his lips. "Told you we'd make and regret it." Ethan nodded, his hands steady on the controls. "We're just getting started,